Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're joining us here today. I am very, very excited to introduce our special guest, Jessie Coomer. Jessie, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm super excited that you're joining us. Jessie is a human performance specialist, breathworker. He's the author of A Practical Guide to Breathwork, which has sold thousands of copies all around the world. Jessie is also an English professor, which I love, and I'm super excited to hear how he combines breath work with language, and he's got this whole new interesting approach to breath, which I'm super excited to hear about. But what I love about Jessie is his authenticity, his kindness, his enthusiasm, and and he's just prolific. Like, you go on YouTube, there's a ton of videos to hear everything that he's just always sharing. So I really love when a person comes with that kind of generosity to this work. And then Jessie's from the Midwest, right? So bringing that warmth, that loveliness. So welcome, Jessie. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate being here.
Yay. So before we get started, I always like to just do a little sort of learning more about you and to understand or to hear a little bit about what inspired you to want to dive into breath in the way that you have. What moved you, or what was the moment where you're like, this is amazing. I want to share this with the world.
Yeah, I love that question. So for me, it was it's been a long path for me. I started out as an English professor about 10 years ago. So I've been teaching language now for 10 years. But before that, I was a combination, one of these strange combinations of a person who I've always been an extreme extrovert. Someone, we extroverts, we drive a lot of our satisfaction in life just simply from being in social situations and just being around people. But strangely enough, in addition to that, I was also blessed with a strong dose of social anxiety. So this combination really, it was kind of a weird combination, because I really needed to be around people to feel good about myself and to have a positive self-image. But getting around people caused me an enormous amount of anxiety. And this is something that I dealt with my entire life. I've always been a worrier. I've always been someone who's really anxious. Now, this is one of those things where those things really have helped me, to some degree, having a great consciousness of what needs to get done, and okay, don't forget this. And there's a certain degree of good that has come from me, having my focus on, okay, what could go wrong and things like that. But obviously, it comes with a great toll. And it led me down a lot of destructive paths and a lot of destructive patterns in my early years, simply because I needed to shut off that anxiety. And I didn't realize that the answer, right, was something that was already within me, something I was already carrying along with me. And it has to do with the language of breath. Now, the way I teach breathwork is as a language. And of course, this has developed over many years. I've been like I said, a college English professor for 10 years, and I've been a breathworker for about 5 years, a little bit more than 5 years. And so I think early on, when it comes to breathwork, I think a lot of us look at breathwork as almost like a magic pill, or as, you do this, you get this result. And, it's a very linear type of a thing. And as I continue to work with my understanding of breathwork, studying under multiple teachers, doing an enormous amount of research, I realized that it really isn't that way. And some of the ways that we approach breathwork and how I've approached breathwork, how I've taught breathwork over my career, I think is kind of the wrong way to look at it. Because so much of the time, and I've said it many times, and oftentimes we say it this way, we say, learn to take control of your emotions, take control of your autonomic nervous system, take control, using that word control a lot. And what I've realized is that in reality, the reason why we need breath work so bad is because we're not in control. And there's so much of life, of course, that we just can't control, but we can influence ourselves positively with breath. And it's not about control, it's about the language that the body is speaking and the language that we can speak back. So that's kind of my path. I started off as a worrywart, and as a way to alleviate that, I found breathwork. I still can't believe it's real. I get up every morning, I'm like, seriously, this stuff works. And it's the craziest thing, you know, literally every morning I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thing. So I've come this far, and especially I've started to look at breath as a language. And of course, you know, being an English professor, I'm sure that played a role.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jesse. I love the real human aspect of this, right? So there's so many of us in the world that struggle with anxiety or looking to find new ways of how to manage and how to process. And I love your approach of not necessarily controlling things, but actually developing a relationship with this. So I'd actually love to hear more about how you speak to the breath as a language. That's fascinating. So tell me a little bit about that, please.
So to start off, I want to give kind of an illustration. Many of us have heard of the learning program Rosetta Stone. And actually, before we began today, you mentioned, I believe you're Colombian. My wife is Puerto Rican, and I have yet, so I focused in English my whole life. I should have been learning Spanish. And so I did buy the Rosetta Stone, and I tried really hard to impress my in-laws. And so far, I have yet to really master Spanish. But when it comes to language, the reason why we have that Rosetta Stone program is because of the original Rosetta Stone that was discovered. Actually, it was interesting. It was written, I believe, 178 or BC, and it had on it 3 different variations of the same decree. So the same laws were on there. Now, up until the point where we discovered the Rosetta Stone, we could not read Egyptian hieroglyphics. So it was just like, well, there's a bunch of pictures here. It's really kind of neat, but I wish we, you know, it kind of looks like maybe the alligator's talking to the dog-faced guy, but I don't know what that means. And when we discovered the Rosetta Stone, it was great because there was ancient Greek right next to those hieroglyphics, and we understand this Greek. And so we were able to decipher what it meant. And so now suddenly, it opened up everything. Look at all of this stuff. Now, language can be used as a decree, right? As it was on the Rosetta Stone. This is the law, and this is how it is. But I think we all recognize the fact that typically we use language to form relationships. It's what we're doing right now. It's what we do with our friends and strangers. And it's something that language can really be used in that way. And in order to do that, though, you have to understand what both parties are saying, right? Mm-hmm. You have to be able to learn how to listen as well as to speak. And so when I go visit my in-laws in Puerto Rico, I'll feel really great because I remember how to ask where to go to the bathroom or, something like that. And then they'll tell me, and I'm like, oh man, they're going way faster than I was expecting, or, and it's almost just like, okay, now tell me in English because I was trying to impress you. And so you have to learn how to listen. We have to learn how to listen to the language that is the body, in order to be able to form that relationship. And oftentimes we look at the mind-body connection and we are like, okay, so I am in the driver's seat and I command this body to do these things. And consciously we have a lot of command, right? So I'm moving my hands, I'm deciding what words to say. So we understand what conscious command is, right? We get that. And so we're like, okay, well, if I want to use breath, right? I've heard breath is going to help me with my sleep or with my anxiety or my digestion. If we want to use that, I need to command my body to do something. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing we shared before this was that we're both dog owners, and we cannot command, we can't always command things, right? But our dog is our best friend, right? We've got these pets that are our best friends. They're looking out for us. My dog tries to attack the UPS man every single time. And I keep telling him it's okay, but he's doing his best. And he's actually doing what he's instinctually supposed to be doing. Now, if we look at the physical body, And if we look at our body as that, as a faithful friend and companion, we start to realize, oh, wait a minute, I've got a good friend here trying to help me. And the Rosetta Stone of our physiology is the autonomic nervous system. And of course, breath workers around the world, we understand whenever you do breath work, you influence the autonomic nervous system. And we oftentimes think, well, okay, I'll do this technique. It's going to stimulate my vagus nerve and okay, awesome. And it's going to result in all these things. But what I try to do when I teach breath is I try to say, well, that's part of it. But language is not just the speaking part. Language is also the listening part. What is it that your physiology is trying to tell you? Because it's trying to help you. It likes you a lot. And this is one of these interesting things where even the language that I'm using right now, we speak about it as if it's some other, right? It's something other than myself, right? Because it's not our conscious self. It is our subconscious self. It is some of these parts we call the autonomic nervous system because it's part of our physiology that it's not part of our conscious control, but it's you. It really is you. So there is a part of you that is conscious. There's another part of you it's still you. But we oftentimes, we look at this part of it ourselves as symptoms. We look at this part of ourselves as a problem thing. Oh man, I can't believe I can never fall asleep on that. I'm just, or I'm always getting sick, or I've got this heart problem and I always have high blood pressure, as if that's not you trying to help you. And if you look at the autonomic nervous system, we've got an enormous amount of things that modern life, just regular modern living, has caused us to have a disconnection with how our physiology normally works. So for instance, in my book, A Practical Guide to Breathwork, not to try to plug it, but hey, why not? We're here. I do talk about the connection and really the disconnection between the life that we live, the environment that is completely artificial, and the life that our autonomic nervous system is trying to help us live. So our autonomic nervous system is saying, hey, I want to keep you safe from predators. I want to make sure the body is in a homeostasis. I want to make sure that we're fed well, but you know what? I don't want to sacrifice digestion. I don't want to put a bunch of energy there if we need to run away from a bear, right? Our physiology is really trying to help us. And we often look at it as, man, I just don't know why I'm sick or I feel this way. I know I looked at my anxiety, which was really the autonomic nervous system trying to help me. I looked at the anxiety as it was a symptom. It was my problem. There was something wrong with me. In reality, we know that when we are in a heightened state of the sympathetic dominant system, a part of our autonomic nervous system, our autonomic nervous system is trying to help us get through some kind of a dangerous event. So what it will do, it will actually increase our ability to see, to smell, and to hear. We become incredibly sensitive. Now, that's great if you're running from a bear, but if you are trying to get some sleep, or if you're in a crowded room, we experience it as anxiety.
Right.
So the big paradigm shift that I really want to start, and this is the thing that I try to stress with my students in workshops and retreats, is that all of these things, it's you trying to help you. And breath is the way that you can form a relationship with you. That's how we speak back. We have to listen, but we can speak back through our breath.
Yes. Amazing. I love this, Jesse. So just to pause, because you just gave us this like amazing download. So really what I'm hearing is that it's not just a one-sided conversation, right? Because those are never fun and they're never that fruitful. So what I'm hearing is a dialogue between the breath, between our physiology, our amazing bodies that are trying to communicate to us. So with that, I'm really curious to hear, like, what are some of your like tips and techniques or tricks to learn how to listen to the body, to learn how to listen to the mind? Like, what are the ways that you facilitate that?
That's a great question. So there's two things that I use, especially whenever I am teaching breath work. One is just to learn that first and foremost, that Rosetta Stone is the autonomic nervous system. So what I try to do, I'll generally show a person, and anyone, if you want to Google it, or it's all over the internet, what are the basic elements of the autonomic nervous system, and look for those actions. What is my autonomic nervous system doing right now? Do I have a heightened heart rate? Is it really like, for instance, in the West, in the United States, I know it's different in every place. And when my European friends come to visit, they're always like, "What is this?" But we have commercials, and you know what I'm talking about. The commercials about prescription drugs.
Right.
And so, for instance, I don't know how many prescription drugs need to exist for, like, for instance, upset stomach, diarrhea, and all these things, or erectile dysfunction. I've seen way too many in my life. But these are actually symptoms, but they're also your autonomic nervous system trying to help you. And this is hard for us to put our heads around. Why would this be something where the autonomic nervous system is trying to help us? Well, let's talk about one of the big ones is sexual dysfunction. Well, if you are in a state that is fight or flight, if your body is trying, right, your physiology is like, I sense a danger. I'm going to shut down things that don't need to be turned on. And that's literally what happens. So you've got this friend inside you that's trying to help you. It's like, okay, that would be bad right now. We need to focus on the bears and the snakes. But intellectually, you understand, no, I'm just nervous because this is my first date in 5 years, right? Or whatever it is. And there's so much of this in our society, and we don't understand what's wrong. So we put a bunch of pills down our throats, right? So ultimately, learning to listen is key, right? That's the first part. So learning to listen and say, okay, what are the things happening and how can I attribute those things to autonomic nervous system control? Awesome. And the reason for that is because the second aspect that I try to teach to really start is really awareness. And my students, they'll hear this a million times, but my phrase is that awareness is the foundation of all positive change. And it's because there's nothing that you can do without knowing where you are. You got to find that out first. What is my friend, who is me, right? What is this part of me trying to accomplish? Okay, this part of me is trying to get away from danger. I need to let my friend know, who is me again. I need to have a conversation. I need to know, okay, this is where you are. You wouldn't, if you had a real friend, right? And that person was scared, you wouldn't be like, man, you're just being a jerk, right? But we look at ourselves so much like that, and we start to not like ourselves as a result. And in reality, it's like, I need to explain to my friend, hey, no, that's okay. We're fine. And that's where the breath comes in. That's where we can say, okay, we can start to apply some of the techniques, some of the things that we understand about how the breath influences the autonomic nervous system. We can start to apply those, and we can do it appropriately, because so much of the time we won't listen. So we won't even be able to say anything that's remotely usable. So for instance, when I go visit my in-laws in Puerto Rico, maybe I know how to say, I know how to say a random string of words, okay? And I'll do this sometimes just because I have that kind of sense of humor. I'll just throw a bunch of words together. I do this with my Dutch friends because I know a few Dutch words too. The word sandwich in every language that I've sampled is a funny sounding word. So in Dutch, it's boterham. I'm like, that's just as funny as sounding. Okay, anyway, that's off on a different tangent. But my in-laws were speaking to me in Spanish, and all I can say back to them is "Donde es el baño?" Right? It's ridiculous, right? Well, that's what we do a lot of times with techniques. Oftentimes, a person says, "Okay, I've got this app, or I've got, I've learned whatever from." Whatever YouTube video, maybe it's one of mine. Maybe a person learned a technique from one of my YouTube videos and they're applying it incorrectly because they just don't know how to listen. So the very foundation is learning the language. What is my body saying to me? And oftentimes we are so disconnected from ourselves, from even just listening to what is happening, that it takes looking at a heart rate. It takes, what is the problem? But ultimately, the goal would be to really get in tune with who you are, really get in tune with how do I feel? And oftentimes we'll use heart rate monitors, things like that, to say, okay, oh, looks like you're in a sympathetic state. You're really in a fight or flight state. How do you feel right now? Okay, we're going to learn that language. Okay, because we know this is our Rosetta Stone. So that means that you're in this fight or flight. Oh, you're relaxed. Well, take a minute, take at least 5 or 10 minutes just to close your eyes and really feel, really sink in to your body, really sink into how this moment feels, as opposed to that other moment that we talked about yesterday or 5 weeks ago.
Mhm.
So the foundation is awareness.
Yeah, beautiful. So our listeners love experiences and learning through experiences. So I'm curious if you could share with us, like, one of the ways that you facilitate that for your students in terms of how to listen.
Yeah. Well, let's just do one right now. Let's do one right now.
Great.
So if you're listening, if you're watching, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to go within our space. Really try to come within. Try to start listening. So close your eyes, relax your eyebrows, relax your face, relax your shoulders. Just come to a state of as much relaxation as you can. And now slowly start to put your awareness on your breath and just begin to notice the feeling of your breath as it enters your nostrils. Slightly cooler air with every inhale. The warmed, moist air as you exhale. Just put your awareness at that place. Just put your awareness at your nostrils. Just stay there for a while. And now on your next inhale, I'd like you to trace that inhale all the way through your sinuses, down through the bronchi, all the way to the alveoli. See if you can trace that. And as we do this, no judgments, just learning to listen. How do I feel? Tracing the breath in and out from the nostrils to the alveoli and back. Really staying focused just on this area. Now take your right hand and put it over your heart, maintaining your focus on your breath. And now slowly move your focus from your breath and feel your heartbeat in your right hand. Only focusing just on this. That's you. It's not the you that knows how to speak English or Spanish or whatever language you speak. That's not the you that decides where to go to work or how to greet your neighbor. But that's the you that's with you all the time when you're doing all those things. Protecting you, looking out for you. You have a friend within you, a friend that wants desperately to form a positive relationship with you. Now remove your right hand slowly. Put your attention in the palm of that hand. All your attention there. Can you feel your heartbeat in your right hand? It's there. Really focus. Practicing awareness. Becoming fully aware of the state of the body and mind. Stay in the palm. Now slowly move that awareness to your right thumb, just your thumb. Can you feel your heartbeat there? And it's there too. That part of you, that faithful friend, remembers to put the heartbeat everywhere in your body. Over 60,000 miles of circulation. And that conscious part of you, the part that decides where you're going to go out to eat tonight or what your favorite color is, that part of you doesn't have to worry about it because you've got a faithful friend. Really stay focused on that area. We're developing awareness together. Now let's challenge ourselves. I want you to trace from your right thumb down to your left big toe. Trace it as you go from your thumb to your forearm, to your bicep, to your shoulders, all the way down your torso. Just use your awareness down your leg, down your calf, down into your foot. Down to your left big toe. Can you feel your heartbeat there? It's there. We have to learn to quiet ourselves so that we can listen. It's easier to do in the silence. It's easier to do when we stop everything we're doing and we just think about that. And so that's a great practice to get into. But remember, your good friend is there the whole time. Maintain that focus on the left big toe, the heartbeat there. Just remember this friend within you, the you that you can form a relationship with. It's looking out for you in traffic. It's looking out for you when you've got that deadline at work. You're a team, a partnership, born completely intertwined together. You can choose to listen to each other, or you can choose to babble. It's your choice. Now we're going to trace that focus, that conscious awareness from our left big toe to our heel, to our left knee. Notice this is possible. This is just the beginning. From our left knee to our left buttock. And then back to our heart, but this time we're just going to focus on our heart without hands. Bringing your awareness back to your heart. Now here's something I'm going to let you in on. Your friend, the one we've been interacting with, the one we've been learning to listen to, has been taking care of other things for you this whole time. One of which is that breathing that we started with. You haven't had to think about it the entire time. You've been doing it. But even as your focus has moved around your body, your good friend is taking care of you. Now move your focus back to your nose, back to those nostrils. Cool, slightly dry air as you inhale. And a warm, moist exhale. Just be there again. Just be present. Present. Together with you, your faithful friend, who is also you. You can open your eyes, wake your face up with a smile, and come back.
That was so lovely. Thank you, Jesse.
It's my pleasure.
Amazing. You can really feel the transmission. For somebody who really has developed a relationship with the breath, so it's like yourself, right? So as soon as you started guiding us into that practice, boom, I dropped in. So I so appreciate, just your presence and your ability to transmit that. And I'm sure all our listeners were able to feel that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that practice. And I love the simplicity of it, right? It doesn't have to be complicated, right? Like our friend is always speaking to us. And it's really such a gift and such an opportunity, as for you to be that invitation to invite us into listening, that our bodies are not a problem, that they're not complaining, they're actually communicating to us. And when we begin to shift that perspective and enter into a dialogue with our breath, with our body, then everything changes from there. So that's really powerful. Thank you so much for that, Jesse. Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful, I think I'm forever changed in terms of really listening to the breath as a language and refining my ability to have that dialogue. I think that's a really powerful invitation. So thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yay.
Just remember, just for everyone who's listening, every breath you take, those are parts of speech. And it's the same as if you were just to go around saying a bunch of syllables, like my 6-year-old son loves to do just for fun. But they don't mean anything, right? Or maybe you say something, as I often am one to do when I speak to my Spanish-speaking in-laws, I'll say the wrong thing. I've really tried hard as far as like, let's eat. That's one of my favorite things. So let's eat, and then I'll say, let's table, or let's, it's so learning that breath is a language, learning that it's a two-way communication, it's a relationship.
Mhm.
because that person that is you is not just the conscious part. Learning that we can form a relationship, and that can be good or it can be dysfunctional. And when we have a dysfunctional relationship, just like in every other aspect of life, nothing good comes from that.
Mhm.
When we have a positive relationship with who we really are, we understand, oh, wait a minute, this whole time, that acid reflux. So my body has been trying to keep me safe. And as a result, I haven't been digesting very well because something in my life has caused me anxiety and stress. So my autonomic nervous system is like, well, we got to keep running. We're getting chased by a bear. So why spend any time digesting, your lunch when we've got to start getting out there and running? No, 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 my friend. No, my friend. Relax. This is the freeway. Yeah, and I know that we did not evolve to have thousands of pounds of steel flying by us at all times, and you're picking up a lot of things. It's okay. It's just like whenever our favorite animals, they'll get scared. My dog gets scared from thunder all the time,
Hmm.
fireworks, and he does the funniest. That's like as if he's speaking, and I know what he's trying to say. But once we're able to listen, we can speak. And whenever we say, okay, the breath is a language, then we can start looking at it as parts of speech, creating sentences, paragraphs, even singing. Even singing, we can sing to ourselves. And I'm sure there's a lot of people at this summit that will be providing a lot of great techniques that I would consider a song for our physiology.
Oh, I love that. I love that in terms of even just like how you spoke about your child babbling words, you trying to speak Spanish, all the way to singing, right? So it's a language that we can become more proficient in. But the fact is, it's just our intention, right? So you saying, I want table, there's still understanding what it is that you're trying to say. And your child might just be babbling, but he's still developing a relationship. But in time, as we begin to develop this dialogue, then we'll be able to sing that song or take the next breath practice to another level and become even more skilled and refined at our ability to shift our state, to shift our consciousness. It's very exciting to think of it as a language. Yeah, beautiful. So with that, Jesse, I'd like to just give you an opportunity to share, right, with our listeners, because I'm sure you have so many opportunities in terms of being able to, for people to connect to you, right? I know you have your YouTube channels, your courses. Is there anything coming up so they can learn more about this language that you so beautifully teach?
Yes, I actually do an online course, and it's a live course. So every week we get together. It's called The Language of Breath, and it literally is a 6-week deep dive into how all of this works and how to really listen to your own physiology. Because one of the misconceptions I also think we have is that all of our physiologies, we're all a bunch of automatons. We come off of an assembly line, and if I breathe in and out and this whatever, oh, it will control my this and it will do that. We're all a little bit different. And so what I teach is how exactly to listen to your own unique physiology. How, I like to say, what is your physiology's accent? What does your physiology like, certain kind of phrases, or maybe it's different styles of English. Even there's different styles of Spanish. Different styles of like, oh, interesting, you say it this way. Well, your physiology is the same thing. There's so much diversity in our species. So I train. It's 6 weeks. We meet every week for 2 hours, and it's very experiential. So when it comes to learning techniques, we do that. But I teach basically what are the parts of speech and how can you put together your own technique. Because that's what techniques are. They're parts of speech, and you put them together, you form a sentence or a phrase, and you can say, okay, well, my physiology is speaking this. And it's so hard, I think, especially in the West, we're so disconnected that we don't really even know how to listen. So I give people really practical tools so that they can start to listen to their breath. Not breath, I'm sorry, but also breath, but they can listen to the physiology and then use the breath to speak back. And again, that's called the language of breath, and that's on my website, jessecoomer.com. I also do, I'm doing a lot of workshops, and you can go to my website to find out where I'll be live. In addition to that, My book, A Practical Guide to Breathwork, is available on Amazon and Audible, iTunes, everywhere that you can find those sorts of things. And I also am on YouTube, as you mentioned. Just go to Jesse Coomer on YouTube, and you'll hear me. I talk about more than just breath. I talk a little bit about everything out there in the hopes that we can live a longer, healthier, happier life.
Yay, amazing. Thank you so much, Jesse, for your generosity and for your enthusiasm. It's really just, it's such a joy to witness. And I'm just so excited that we had the opportunity to hear from you today. And to all the listeners, just know that you can always, if you want to hear this conversation again, you can always click below to the, get the whole summit so that you can take it with you and listen to it again and again, because we're going to be just diving deeper, right? So repetition is one of the keys to be able to learn and go deeper with any practice. So with that, given everything we talked about, what's one thing that you'd like to leave us with today, or a next step for all our listeners to be able to make changes in their own life?
Yeah, again, just remember that the conscious you is not the only you. You're walking around with your best friend, and that friend is really, really doing his or her best. And the best way that you can have a wonderful relationship is to learn to listen and to learn how to speak with love. So just doing those things, you're going to have a happier and healthier life. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, such a joy. Thank you, Jesse. And speak with love. Yes, that is the ticket. More love, please. Amen. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jesse, for joining us today. Thank you for all the listeners for joining us today. And hope to see you soon. Thank you, Jesse.